Welcome to True Talk, brought to you by Trueland Equipment. Join us as we explore cutting-edge machinery, groundbreaking technology, and inspirational stories from the field.
From the dedicated efforts of our team members to the triumphs and challenges of our farmers, True Talk brings you along every step of the way.
Whether you're a seasoned agriculturalist or simply curious about the industry, tune in to discover the fascinating intersection of technology, agriculture, and green machines.
True Talk, cultivating true conversations.
Welcome back.
Welcome back to True Talk.
That was such a delayed welcome back.
Right.
It's like not excited to do this podcast episode.
I am excited to do this podcast. I think our guest is too.
I know.
We got a guest. Do you want to introduce him? Should he introduce himself?
I think he should introduce himself.
Get the nerves out of the way.
No nerves.
No nerves, none at all, yeah. Brenton Peters, farm with Peters Farms Incorporated in Bringhurst, Indiana. I guess third generation farmer, I guess you would call it second generation in this area. My dad was from Lima, got married and moved here, so.
He was from where?
Lima, Ohio.
See, I learned something today already. So his family farmed.
Yeah, he farmed with his dad in Ohio, and then he met Mom, and there wasn't enough room out there, so he moved to Lima, he moved here to Indiana and got his start and went from there.
Did not know that.
Was your mom from here?
Yeah, my mom just was a quarter mile down the road.
Okay. I was going to say, because this seems like a very unique place to just
mapped
out it.
Yeah.
So Bringhurst, Indiana, we drove about, 4 miles from our Flora, Indiana store to get here to the farm office. So close to our Flora store. And yeah, you've been around here. You guys have been around here as long as I've known, and known your dad, obviously, for, 30 some years, just being in the business. And, But I did not know that. It's fascinating. So did he have family that took over that, like a brother or sibling or something that took over that farm?
Yeah, his dad would have continued to farm, and then he had 3 other brothers that farmed there with him, and so he was the only one that moved out to farm in a different area.
So he was one of the younger ones, I take it.
No, he's actually the oldest.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's kind of different.
So, yeah, I don't know how it happened that he was the one that came out. He been the first to get married. So I guess I've never asked him how it happened. He was the one that moved here.
Huh. It's interesting. Then you guys had hogs over the years, quite a few hogs and some things like that as well, and don't anymore.
Yes, that's correct. So Dad was, we had fair to finish operation. That's how he started out. In fact, where we're sitting right here, side note, is this was Dad's feeding room when he first started farrowing. So across the wall, he had wood farrowing crates.
Wow.
He'd bring his pigs in here in this room we're sitting in, feed them, and then he'd put them back in there because back then you didn't feed pigs, or you didn't feed the sows in the pen, I guess you would call it. So that's where we're sitting right now is his original feeding room. But
for the sows.
For the sows, yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So that would have been, like a 12-crate farrowing room or something?
No, I don't know how many crates he had over there, honestly.
That's
Several,
cool.
because I remember tearing it. Of course, as a kid, they were all still there. I never remember him doing that till I remember he had started building confinement barns at that time. But so, we was fair to finish up until 2 years ago. Barns getting old, is pretty common across the county, I think, or the state.
You got to have a kind of a come to Jesus moment, right? What are we going to do? Basically rebuild these, just like building a new one anymore, isn't it? With the amount you can put in them and flats and gates and everything else. Yeah, it's changed, that's for sure. That's kind of a cool story. Obviously, most of us in our age group worked in hogs at some point in our life that had something to do with farm and small farrowing rooms and kind of the old-fashioned way. Mm-hmm. It's a lot different now. That's for sure. So, technology user, we got several things we want to talk about. We asked him to be on the podcast because we want to get growers on the podcast and talk about their experiences and what they value.
We're tired of doing all the talking now.
Yeah.
Well, I like to listen, so this might not work out.
No, that's good. And Brent and I have a relationship also from an agronomic standpoint as well, so we work together on some things. But one thing I like about their farm, they've got a lot of John Deere equipment. That's always good, right?
It's a good first start to be on the podcast.
Right. Yeah. Got a cool tractor lineup, I think, and a vast kind of tractor lineup, but also has invested heavily in technology and been a big user of the G5 display and ventured into some of the advanced technologies over the last couple of years. Can you tell us a little bit about your equipment lineup? You got some, air quotes, older tractors and some newer tractors.
Everybody has their own definition of old, though. So,
well, I mean, I wouldn't call
what's your
them
air
old, but
20 years is vintage. That's
So,
kind of crazy.
so he's got some vintage tractors.
Okay, yeah.
then.
So we run one vintage. We still run a 8400 to do our side dressing. So, which would be getting close to vintage, I guess now. An 8360 RT. That's fairly old. That's what we plant with, and grain cart, different things. A small 9230 four-wheel drive. That's our beam planter / grain cart tractor also. And then the primary strip till bar tractor would be a 9560R. So nothing really super new.
Nice lineup.
But yeah, we're happy with it.
I love
Yeah.
the 30
It
series.
works.
That 9230 is a cool little tractor.
Yeah, we like it.
So before we get into a heavy technology conversation, I think it's important to call out that you aren't necessarily a farmer that has 1-year-old or brand new equipment where you're in a mud deal, rolling stuff every year and getting an entirely new fleet. This technology is really adaptable. We've talked about some other brand universal capabilities in the past, but age is also a consideration in there. So this is something that, most of our farmers, whether they fall into a new camp or not quite a vintage camp, but they have a couple years behind them. It's available for everybody.
Yeah, it's kind of fascinating. When I look at our 8400, it was actually one of the very first 8000 series tractors in this area. So it was a demo tractor. It was a John Deere demo. And you wonder if where the auto steer Green Star thing was, and what it's a 94, 95 model, and where all that was. And so we bought the tractor used. It got a new engine, got sold to a local farmer. A couple years later, then we bought it, and now to running RTK with AutoPath side dressing on a tractor that's how old? And you think, well, that probably wasn't even a thought that where we would be at that time that tractor came out. So it's kind of cool in that aspect.
Yeah, over 30 years old. It just shows the adaptability of them. And it had top tier technology in it for what you were doing.
Yeah, at the time it was revolutionary, wasn't it? The command arm, I guess you would call it, the original.
Right. And those tractors are still hot and heavily used today for something on farms everywhere, right?
Yeah.
They usually don't last long if they hit the dealership lot. They usually have a buyer waiting, because everybody wants to still hang on to one for something.
Yeah, it's kind of embarrassing. We now, besides side dress and various things, we mow side ditches with it. And who would have thought 30 years ago we'd need an 8400 to mow side ditches, but it is what it is. It's good for that.
But to Jordan's point, you've still been able to leverage that 30-plus-year-old piece of equipment into the modern technology that we're using today to do some of the things you're doing in the field as well.
Yeah.
Besides mowing side ditches.
Right. RTK on the side ditch, right?
I was saying.
Yeah, see, they need to make AutoPath boundaries be one step outside the boundary so Dad could mow side ditches that way without driving.
Hands-free side ditch mowing.
Create a fifth operation type mowing.
Yeah.
I do know people that have guidance lines in their side ditches. Just saying.
Nuh-uh.
I do. Yep. Which is great. Good for them.
Yeah. It's crossed my mind. I've just never got there. Maybe I need to do that for Dad.
Depends on how many foam pools you got.
Yeah.
Great segue. So again, I guess the moral of the story as we get into some of the things you do is you don't have to have the latest and newest to be able to leverage technology. So you've invested in some Gen 4s and Gen 5s. I think you have at least 2 Gen 5s at the moment.
Yeah, that's correct.
You like them, obviously.
Yeah, we do. They've been really pleased with them.
What do you use those for at the moment, or what are they kind of bouncing around from tractor to tractor? Or
the primary one, I guess, the first one we bought was due to AutoPath, of course, with the strip till bar, and then so we run that, and then it comes out of that tractor and goes right into the planting tractor in the spring.
Is that why you invested in the G5, because you were a strip tiller? Was that kind of a leading factor?
Yeah, the leading factor was because of the monitor, because of AutoPath, and because of the implement, the passive implement steering with the GPS receiver on the strip till bar.
Yeah. And implement guidance, which has picked up, again, a lot of steam. I'd love to get into strip till a little bit because, again, I think it's something that, we talked about for 20 years, and it just kind of was really slow to take off. And I think the last 5 or 6 years, it's really, really taken off heavy. And I don't know if that's because of technology or because, we've made the equipment maybe a little more affordable. At the time, it was how are we going to get across all these acres in the fall? And these toolbars were massive and expensive, and it took a lot of horsepower to pull them. What was your in for you guys on strip till? What was that decision like?
We started strip tilling 5 years ago, I believe. I think last year was our 5th fall to do it. And the leading factor. I've always been interested in trying new things, moving into something different. We had some primary tillage tools that was starting to show age, get wore out. And labor, you know how labor is, it becomes an issue. And so it looked like, that, hey, if we invest maybe in the strip till bar, that'll be done in the fall. That way, in the spring, we have one guy cultivating, one guy planting beans, and the guy in the corn planter can just go plant corn. And being able to apply our fertilizer through that bar ourselves looked like a cost savings over paying the ag retailer to spread dry for us.
Right. So you've cut down on application cost. You've cut down on overall fertilizer cost because we know it's more efficient, right, in the bins. Yeah. So give us a review at 5 years.
I struggle to find a failure with it with what we've gone through so far. Honestly, I don't know what that would be.
I mean, that's good because I've told you before. I mean, I think you guys do some of the best job of strip till. Your strip till always looks fantastic.
Well, we're sold enough on the strip till that it's very important for us in the fall to make sure that strip till bar gets running. So because of that and because it's so important, we'll normally try to start it a day or two behind the combine if the ground's fit, because it means enough to us that we've got to get this done and we've got to get it done right. Our previous bar, we was able to do it. It had the capability of not only doing dry, also running anhydrous in the fall. And I did that 1 year, but it got to where we couldn't make nice enough strips because you wait till November, the ground's cold. Yeah. You're never sure what the ground's going to be like conditions-wise.
So you're setting up your timing on the nitrogen, obviously. Yeah.
That was an efficient way to do it. I did like the fact of running nitrogen on the bar, but not being able to make its nicest strip pushed us back to just dry in the fall for us.
Well, I know they're chasing the combine because I'm trying to get their soils tested somewhere in there. It's hard to do.
Yeah. Hey, this year they might have a little bit more leeway.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a pretty early harvest, isn't it?
That's what I mean.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Yeah. Okay, then let's jump onto the technology side of that. So in that 5 years, obviously there's been some technology advances for you, and you've invested in some technology, again, probably based around the strip till, as we kind of said.
Mm-hmm. Well, and strip tilling, that is a lot of people, their first introduction to implement guidance.
Sure.
And then AutoPath comes with that because it's a natural progression.
Right.
You're already set up for running AutoPath at that point.
But implement guidance has improved, I think, in the last 5 years as well. I don't know what you guys used on year one.
And I mean, you would be a perfect person to talk about a true testimonial for the improvement that you've seen in utilizing these products year after year.
Well, year one, so we started out, we'd been using cellular RTK, of course, starting out, and we was ag leader at the time and got along, honestly, we got along fine. But our strip till bar was 16 rows, and our corn planter at the time was 16 rows. So when I'd come back to plant, if I needed to nudge a little bit here or there due to whatever reason, it wasn't hard to do. And so for the first 4 years, it did work pretty good. I mean, I could make it work. We switched to a 24-row planter and stayed with, of course, with a 16-row strip till bar. And the first fall, I stayed with the cellular RTK. And planting that first spring, I could tell that this isn't going to work. When we farm, Josh will tell you, we farm pretty flat ground. I mean, we have very little rolling hills, very little roll. Like, it's flat. But I was surprised at the amount of times I would have 16 rows dead center. And those 8 rows of the corn planter, even if they're off 2-3 inches, you can see that difference in stand. Like, it's important to stay centered on that strip for us, is what we found.
That's 2 years in, and at that point, there was some. We'll get into AutoPath, but there was some technology coming, right, that was going to make that better. But what was there for you when you said, okay, this isn't going to work? What was there for you at that time to make that better, technology wise? Yeah, I mean, was AutoPath there? Did you jump right into AutoPath at that point or not? I mean, implement guidance, we call that the gateway. You know, that gives us this gateway into some of these more advanced technologies. And implement guidance is fantastic. We've had people that have tried to strip till without it. It doesn't work very well.
Yeah.
At a minimum, you want those guidance lines to be there so that planter will stay on that strip, right? That's the whole goal. Yeah. So what was the next step to improve that when you said, hey, this isn't going to work?
Well, our next step, was some sort of implement guidance. That's the only thing I had to do. And so I knew for us in the ground we farmed, the expense of active implement guidance wasn't an expense we needed to take. We didn't need to physically move the bar. Like,
Right.
I just needed the tractor to move 3-4 inches to make sure the strip till bar was staying where it was. And so
you never invested in like a movable hitch or something like that at that point?
Never went as that far. No, didn't feel like we needed to spend that kind of money.
Because you don't have a lot of roll. When you say you farm flat ground, I think we decided one day you might have 2 or 3 soil types across your whole operation.
Yeah, for the most part, we're pretty fortunate in that aspect.
Right. Yeah. So you didn't have a lot of roll in some of that crazy adjustment that needed to be done.
Yeah.
So your first foray into implement guidance was passive.
Yeah, it was passive. That's all we've ever known. So we strip tilled one fall without it, and then I put it on the corn planter the next spring. And it amazed me how far at that point the tractor would be off 2 to 3 inches to keep the planter where it needed to be. And it still kept the planter on half the bar just all right. It was just the other half because I wasn't strip tilling with the passive guidance.
Right.
And then so the fall of 24 would have been our first fall to run the passive guidance. And then planting on it this spring, I couldn't tell the pass to pass difference in the bar.
I always tell people when you're setting guys up with implement guidance, there's nothing better than seeing that planter on top of that strip when you leave the field, and when you nailed it. And it's really not that hard to do if your measurements are right and you've got the guidance lines and everything's set up right.
Yeah,
So,
I feel like the biggest thing is measuring, and a lot of the times we run into this where they'll say, "Oh, we have a 60-foot strip till bar." Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, you have a bar that's 60 feet, but it's actually each individual row. So you need to go row unit to row unit.
Right.
We talk a lot about that. I have a guy with a custom planter who, same situation. He's like, yeah, I have a 60-foot bar, pass to pass.
Yeah.
So we measured it, and it was, closing wheel to closing wheel. And yeah, sure enough, 3 inches off. It was 3 inches short. And I was like, there you go. There it is.
Don't forget to actually measure stuff, right?
Yeah.
Double check stuff. And
Yeah.
there are times where something's off somewhere. So,
but little things like that can affect your ability to line it up. But yeah, no, it's very satisfying when you can see it. And you spoke to it a little bit, the agronomic impact that it has just being off a couple inches and not sitting smack dab in the middle of that strip. I mean, that's critical for you and every other strip tiller out there. And it's vital that you hit that.
Yeah.
And we just talked about how, we're saving on fertilizer and some efficiencies of strip till. You want to be on that strip to take advantage of that, right? Because we're already reducing rates and some things like that. So, and again, talking 3 inches, who would have known 30 years ago we'd be worried about 3 inches? Now we're talking about sub-inch, you know. And when you're off an inch or two, you can probably see it. We have that capability. So
probably somebody at John Deere.
Right. Yeah, we're right. So then the next progression is enter AutoPath. So taking that implement guidance step further, again, that's that gateway into those advanced guidance technology. AutoPath came into play for you, I believe, last growing season.
Yes,
you were messing with it some.
Yeah.
It's great. It's not perfect. We know that. We'll get into that too. But as you entered into AutoPath at first, kind of thoughts, and did it change anything for you or how you approach some things?
The nice thing is like last fall, I'm too busy to sit in the strip till bar in the fall. So AutoPath, it allowed me to set up the AutoPath boundary side of it with good RTK boundaries, and I could send a more inexperienced person and know that the end rows would be done right. The field would be laid out right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because if it gets messed up in the fall, I'm messed up in the spring when we're planting.
Yeah, you're off the whole time.
Yeah.
Then. Yeah. So, I mean, again, you went right into AutoPath boundaries. That's one thing that Deere seemed to, for sure, just nail right off the bat.
Yeah.
That came out and worked good from the start.
I think we spoke on this during our harvest software episode. But the products where Deere is building upon existing technology, so where we already have the building blocks for it, it's just compiled in a different way, or we're adding one more feature, bringing one more functionality to it. Those from the jump always seem to be huge successes. And I would say we already had AutoPath, and we already had boundaries and repeatability with RTK, SFRTK. We've had AB lines, guidance lines for a long time. We've had headland management, all of that stuff. So now we've just compiled that, and yeah, I agree. AutoPath boundaries was just a success from the start.
And then, of course, that filtered into planting with AutoPath, which this spring it was okay in places. There were some struggles in places as well. Obviously, we know with the mismatch equipment this year, we had a few areas where we had a few issues. But you came back with a planner and set up your AutoPath rows that you then use subsequently for side dressing after the fact and probably some spraying. You brought up the fact that it doesn't matter, you can put someone in the strip till tractor and have things set up. How has some of this technology benefit to you with labor and things like that?
My dad runs a strip till bar for me some, and then I have a younger boy who's in college and on his days off. He needs the hours, of course, because he's in college, so he needs something to do, and he's really smart. So he'll come run the strip till bar for me. Probably anybody, I can set an A/B line and they can go back and forth. Anybody can do that.
Right.
But with the integrated part of like iTech and the auto turn through the G5 advanced license and then auto path boundaries, like I'm not worried about what kind of job they're doing. They get started, they're going back and forth. The tractor's lifting the bar right on the boundary lines, right on the headland boundary. It's turning around. I'm perfectly square every time, headed back into the row. And then the big one is the end rows. So end rows are headlands, whatever you want to call them. Everybody, I guess that's an argument on Twitter you can have if you want to. But
Ag Twitter.
Yeah, or Ag X,
Ag
I guess
Twitter
it
is
is
alive
now.
and well.
Yeah. Headlands, end rows, whatever they are. That's the hard thing to do. And so it allows me to let my boy, he can do the headlands, and I know they're done right, so I'm not going to have any trouble planting when that time comes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and that's, of course, what we want to hear when we ask the question. But I didn't know you used ATTA on the strip till bar.
Yeah, and that was a major eye-opener because always before, when you strip till, you do the end rows last. And so it's not like ripping or something. If you got a bunch of overlap, oh, well, it doesn't matter. And so in years past, it was common when we was just guessing. Even though the bar was designed to shut the fertilizer off, we would still strip 15 to 20 feet too far because we wanted to make sure that we wasn't missing a spot.
Right.
Well, with the, what'd you call it? What's your fancy acronym?
Headland management?
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
With that and the tractor lifting the bar on its own, you set it up to where it's a foot past your 120-foot end row. It lifts the bar up, turns it around, sets it right back down. And instead of having 15 to 20 feet, I was double strip tilling that last headland pass. It was one, maybe two rows. It was unbelievable.
Wow.
How good it did on that. Once we got, it took us some time to get our timing set and all that stuff.
So, obviously the start of this, in my opinion, is having those good accurate boundaries, which we hit on a lot and talked about using RTK to do those boundaries. So when you get that headland set up, you're pretty confident you got your measurements right. And then some of the adjustments, the on-off times, right, and things like that, where you had to kind of tune in, which everybody does. And once you got those, and, we've kind of talked about the ATA adjustments and kind of fine-tuning those as well. So it's obviously worth the effort. There are customers that say, hey, I don't want to take the time to tune something in, or with ATTA, to adjust it. Why was that valuable to you? Because you have put the time investment in, even with a planner, to truly tune in that ATTA.
Well, on the strip till bar, it was really vital due to the fact that, you get it set, it's perfectly straight when it goes back down. So you're not going from a 10-inch gap to a 40-inch gap, and then you're not planting on the row because it takes some time for that bar. Once it's in the ground, we run a shank type bar. So it takes some time for it to get to where it needs to be. And with your fancy acronym for turning on the end.
ATTA.
Yeah, there you go. See, I'm going to remember it one of these days.
It's John Deere acronym city.
Yeah.
It's just right on all the time. And so that goes back to a non-experienced operator. And I've ran a tractor for 30 years, and even I can't turn a four-wheel drive dead on like ATTA can.
So with that articulated again, four-wheel drive, and giving yourself the right style of turn and right distance to get that toolbar to straighten back up before you drop into the ground.
Yeah.
Which is a great selling point.
When you are in a cabin, you have so much to think about, especially with strip tilling. There's a lot going on, and that's one less thing that you have to worry about. You know that those turns are going to be consistent, and you know that you're not going to be redundant. And, when I was working ground when I was a kid, if I was overlapping or I left a skipper, then I would, we'll just do an extra headland pass and wonder why that happened, but you don't really have the luxury of doing that. So
not with strip till.
It eliminates a lot of those headaches or potential errors for really what you're stuck with for the next year dealing with.
It's just kind of cool to think about, there are people that have never even thought about headland management. That's not valuable to me. And you just lay out this case of how each of these tools has kind of fit into what you've been trying to accomplish. And the trajectory of that technology kind of, to me, fits in with the trajectory of the strip till adoption. And it's not by accident. by any means. But it's,
I also think it's crazy to think about what you're doing today and, the extra 5-10 minutes that you've taken to set that up and fine tune some of your settings and your measurements and your offsets and your timing and all of that good stuff. Think about how much time that's saving you over the next year. I mean,
no,
seriously,
right.
like compound. Okay, so yeah, it's 5 minutes, but then that saves you, we'll just say 30 seconds per pass per turn. Okay, well, do you know how many turns you make in a field? And then how many extra passes are you making? And you compound that and you've saved an hour.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we preach the measurements, and the days of sitting in the seat and say, oh, that looks like about 15 feet, and you plug that into the display. A lot of us can still do that in certain situations, but
I feel like the measurements conversation is like when you were younger, when your math teacher was like, you have to show your work because we have to know how you got there. Right. It's like the exact same thing. And I always hated, I don't know, maybe you're kind of a nerd, so you probably like to show your work, but
yeah,
but I always hated to. I just thought it was so redundant. As long as I got the right answer, I didn't really care, how we got there, whatever. It didn't really matter to me. Yeah, the irony of it is here now I'm preaching. You have to tell us how you got there. Where did you measure from? We even had a debate with our boss one time about where we measure from to and from for a measurement. And just for the record, the entire team got it right and he got it wrong.
Okay, well, that's good to know.
You've got to cut that out.
No, I was saying in there.
No, again, it's back to me saying there's nothing that feels better than when you can walk away from the field and see that planter right on that strip till.
But measurements are such a boring conversation. But then you look at the bigger picture and it's like, okay, so what that I took an extra 5 minutes and had a tape measure and had to get an extra set of hands to hold the end of the tape measure while I took accurate measurements. Look at how that paid off.
Yeah.
And that's fresh in our brain because we just had some internal classes that we went over. I was in the measurement
It's always
portion.
fresh in our brain because that's all we talk about.
Again, and that's that trajectory. The importance of measurements becomes more and more critical as your level of technology increases up the technology tree, right? So for you, it's pretty cotton picking important.
Yeah.
You ever think about the future, like what could possibly come next or what in your operation? I know, again, AutoPath's been something that's good. We've had some struggles with it. I want to give you that freedom to talk about. We obviously need a couple improvements here and there. And
what do you need to see change to use it more? I know you're using it probably entirely on everything. If John Deere was in the room, what do you really need to see change?
Well, a couple things I'd like to see change is in AutoPath boundaries, they don't do a good job on their outside corners for one. So
do you back into your corners?
Inside corners, yes. Unless it's at a road intersection, all inside corners get squared off, yeah. Okay. An outside corner, like if you have a house that you're going around in the corner of a field or whatever, it squares off the first time, but the second time on AutoPath boundaries, it wants to round that corner off.
Okay.
Or normally with planting, we would square it off. Does that make sense?
You'd square both of them, the outside and the inside. So you'd like to see an option to what to do with that.
To make it square the outside corner.
Okay. Good point.
Yeah. I feel like that's very valid.
Yeah. Now, in the spirit of just so you know, we did on some areas where you can't see from the road, I did round off the second pass of corn, and you're coming around that corner.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see because in our mind, it's like, well, you know what? Those corners are hard to shell because you got to cut them all out and all this funky stuff. And maybe the combine can just make a nice rounded corner.
Yeah. And they should be able to. And I think that's where that thought comes from originally. But I see where you're coming from and how people plant. And there's some people that'll they've never backed into a corner ever.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's people that back into every single one.
Yes.
And then you sound like a happy medium.
Well, that's a hybrid. There's guys that hybrid, but you want to square everything, it sounds like. And
if we can.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does that look in the planter then if the strip till bar is doing that? What does it look like when you're planting those?
Well, we have to guess. Okay. That's the problem with it. So we don't have markers on our planter. And so if I'm doing that outside corner, I have to just halfway guess. And the poor guy in the strip till bar has to do the same thing because there's nothing to go off of because it wants to round the corner. So he tries to guess squaring it off. Okay. And then I have to guess. And then some of them don't look quite so pretty. And I'm always glad when the corn's 5 feet tall, nobody can see it.
Okay. So there's one. Okay. What about AutoPath rows then?
Well, AutoPath rows, honestly, I unfortunately wasn't able to use it much this spring in the corn planter. And I don't know. Josh, he was out helping me, and we don't know I think you had other guys too. We don't know what was happening. It was giving me all sorts of funky lines at times.
Okay. So yeah, I think that was an issue with some mismatch equipment, perhaps.
So yeah, let's expand upon that. So when you say mismatch and you weren't able to use rows, so you're strip tilling in the fall, and that's what your source operation is.
16 rows.
Yep. And then you come back in with a 24 row planter.
Yeah.
In the spring, and you're using the source operation. So you're actually utilizing autopath rows, which for all the non-strip till people out there, you would kind of be one step ahead, I'll call it, because typically their planter pass is their source operation.
Right.
So now that we have seen the success of autopath boundaries, that's kind of a new concept, but we have a season of running autopath boundaries in a seeding source and seeding operation under our belts with this past spring, with it becoming widely available through a software update. And we have the success and the proven track record that now Deere is actually recommending that autopath boundaries be the way to go for our strip till operations.
That's right, for that first strip till pass, and then also the following planting pass using autopath boundaries again, because of some of the issues we've had following strip till as a source pass. Autopath boundaries hit the ground with such success that it looks to be the solution for the first planting pass following strip till. But the key is what?
High fidelity boundaries.
High fidelity boundaries, for sure.
That solution is not going to work with drawn boundaries, with driven SF1 boundaries, with bordering your fields when you start. Any of the solutions that we've been talking about for it's good enough for your field detection is not good enough to be running autopath boundaries.
That's
if
right.
we think about the precision that it requires to run autopath rows, that same thing is required, even probably more so because we don't have an implement receiver on that planter to track it exactly.
That's right. Right. The reality is we're coming in probably 6 months after the fact, so we want to make sure those boundaries were done with SF-RTK or RTK so that they're stationary.
Yeah, the repeatability.
Which, again, you were able to get back into autopath after that for side dressing, if I'm not mistaken, that followed your planter rows and things like that. And your side dresser matches your planter. It helped this year in that.
So you
regard.
redocumented your source operations.
So yeah, I run, our corn planter runs on precision. And so luckily I did figure out with Josh's help, I'm sure, that I did need to set up the auto steer with a default rate.
Virtual implement.
Yeah, and 24 rows, 30 inches instead of a 60-foot bar. We redid all the autopath rows with the corn planter as I was planting. Moved those to the vintage 8400 with the G5.
Vintage.
And it did. I mean, our employee does all our side dressing, and he said there was very few times that it was off. And so, but it was a 60-foot planter to a 60-foot side dresser, and it worked really well. Even on the Endros, he didn't hardly have to drive Endros, headlands.
Yeah, they definitely had the matching implements worked really well. We got a little bit of work to do on the mismatch implements, and I'm confident that we'll get straightened out. But I appreciate you bringing the employee in there. I know that employee is awesome, but
he's good.
So you have a 12-row corn head then?
We do have, yes.
Okay.
So give that a try this fall.
I just didn't know if we were going to have another headache come harvest time, but it sounds like
ironically
you could be in good shape.
The other day we just started working on that together too to get ready for the harvest files to go. So yeah, looking forward to seeing.
Yeah, I'll be anxious. We've never, of course, ran autopath in the combine, so it'll be fun to see how that works.
Yeah, it will
this fall
for sure. Shifting into Op Center a little bit.
Oh my gosh, that's just where my head was.
Yeah. Well, he's become an Op Center user, and again, pros and cons. It's obviously a powerful program. There's gaps in everything, right?
So for somebody who's as agronomically savvy as the two of you, I feel like a lot of the gaps that you're seeing are on the agronomic side.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, it does a good job supporting your technology. Thoughts after you've been a user for a couple of years now and have kind of jumped in. I give him credit. He was a climate user, and he jumped in with both feet in the Op Center. And thoughts on ops, positive first. As a guy, like I said,
the compliment sandwich.
As a guy who, I like your story because I would have thought you were an unlikely guy to be an Op Center user a few years ago. But
I also just think that it's real. There's so many people that, they say, oh, I can't use Op Center, or I don't want to use Op Center, or, whatever, because of XYZ reason, because of climate. And I just think that there's kind of a case for both in certain regards. But at the end of the day, just because you use climate or just because you use Op Center doesn't mean you can't use the other.
Right.
So just because you have precision on your planner, like you guys do, we already talked about that, doesn't mean you can't use Op Center. That data can flow in there. Now, does it flow through climate? Does it flow manually through a flash drive? however that looks for you is up to you. You're not out of the game just because you use one versus the other.
I still use Climate at this point because I'm new to Ops Center. And the problem we had was I'd linked my Climate account with the Ops Center account. And so it brought in the planning data. And so it was using that layer as a planning data. And so then I didn't have AutoPath rows when I was trying to send the data back out to the combine because, of course, Climate doesn't know that. Right. And so that's basically all he did was he got rid of deleted the Climate data out of there, reprocessed it so it'd use the John Deere as the planting layer.
Because that's where your guidance was for AutoPath.
Yeah.
And I think that Deere has been pretty good in the past about kind of solving those. And I know that there have been some negative connotations about Deere and their, I don't know, how nice they play with other brands. And they've really gotten better about it. Yeah. And I'm not just saying that because, we support Deere. There's a lot of connections is what they're called in Ops Center. There's a lot, those grow every single day. Right. There's a new one that appears, but to the point where I've lost count of them.
Well, and you're talking about being universal, and we fought that.
But it's truly universal.
I fought that 30 years ago in the soil testing business, right? We all had soil testing software that didn't speak and had different platforms, and the industry just gets smart over time and came up with a shapefile, right? That became the universal way of sharing data in that instance. So, they've made improvements and definitely played nice, in the sandbox with other companies.
For lack of a better term,
But again, those challenges that we ran into just now, those are little loopholes or things that'll have to be addressed.
But in the past, I feel like it could have easily been dismissed as, the solution to that, of course, is to just have a all Deere planner. Yeah. But we're not really there yet.
Right.
We're not there anymore. Yeah. And I feel like they have gotten a lot more accommodating. Yeah. They're a lot more open and a lot more willing to kind of solve some of those problems. Yeah. I have some issues right now on some liquid data coming off of precision monitors and some issues with that. And Deere's being very helpful and heading up that solution.
I thought about the other day when I unlinked the Climate for that matter, I didn't want it re-bringing that data back in and overriding. It's like, well, I'm done with the planning data. But on the same thing, the liquid on our planner also goes through the precision monitor. Yeah. And so if I'm doing any type of studies that I'm keeping, fertilizer studies that are starter that I'm keeping track of in the precision where it's different rates, different products, how do I need to make sure that's in Climate so I can do with yield or in Ops Center. So with yield, I can check that out.
In field analysis. So to me, the solution is we've got what we needed. We make our setup file for the combines and we roll Climate back in.
Yeah, that's true.
We're done. So we can bring it back in because you do have a lot of data and we work together on some plots and things that we need to see that data.
I need to know.
Yeah, that's where the yield's
and knock on wood, this is the only year that you'll have to do that.
Maybe. Yeah, we'll see. But
I said knock on wood, okay?
To me, in my mind, it's a simple solution now, so we know what to look for. And again, having that flexibility, having the ability to roll one in, roll one out, roll one back in, that's what, to me, that's what makes it better. But, the Ops Center, when it first came out, we talked about it. It's the tool that supports the technology that you have in your equipment. And it's continuing to get better on the agronomic side. I don't think it was ever intended to be a full agronomic tool, but they obviously keep making improvements in that way via customer demand. But I think it does a really good job of supporting that technology you have. You've become a master, Brenton, on MTGs and moving MTGs in and out and tying a lot of connected equipment. Yeah. You guys have taken that initiative and seen the value in connecting your equipment.
And one more thing that probably wasn't thought about when those machines rolled off the line, production line, was MTGs.
Yeah. And who would have thought we'd have been uploading data in real life out of an 8400, right? Is it the R modem?
The M modem. Yeah, some M modems and a lot of MTGs, and I've seen that value, and that's good. Look, we put a huge amount of emphasis on connectivity, and there's reasons why. Obviously, we feel like we can serve you guys better when you're connected, and you can connect with your fleet personally. You probably monitor what's going on in your fleet when it's connected, and the reality is the people that are connected now and engaging in the stuff that you're engaging in are going to be better prepared for the stuff that's coming down the road. Talking about full autonomy, we can all laugh about it, but the reality is it's here and it's being used, and people are seeing value in it.
For sure.
Already. No, good stuff. Did bring up the fact that I got to throw this in here that we're sitting here and the See and Spray machine drove by outside on the road as we sit here and record this podcast. And
Can we go an episode without talking about See and Spray?
Probably not.
Absolutely not.
You did have an opportunity to use that. Can you go into that choice and why? And
so the See and Spray, especially the Ultimate, really intrigues me. as to far as, especially if fungicide and soybean thymes, and everybody has it, water hemp popping through, pigweed popping through, whatever, but you don't want to spray the whole field with Liberty due to what we perceive as maybe a yield hit. And so
at that time, and right when it's flowering,
and the delicate timing,
it's hard to know what to do and so our local ag retailer has a See and Spray Ultimate machine this year, so we let them spray 150 acres for us, and just to see how it would work out and try it, I guess to say. And was very impressed. I think of the 150 acres, they sprayed 35 or 40, I think with actual chemicals.
Yeah. And that's a customer of ours that's using that ASP that's using that sprayer. And again, by Ultimate, it's got the 2-tank system, so it can apply 2 products at once. And you had them flat rate some fungicide and foliar.
Mm-hmm. And that's kind of an unconventional use from the jump. Not that you can't use it that way.
It's going to be a very heavy future use, in my opinion.
Yes,
it's the really
it's very attractive for ASPs, but I mean, the dual product system, to be able to save some chemical, everybody's very conscious about that. But get a pass off that everybody's using fungicide. We're going to apply fungicide on everything. And then some spot spray management. It's awesome.
I love the use. I love that use. So the positive, again, we don't want to put a bunch of chemicals on beans at that R3 stage, right? A bunch of herbicides, right?
Yeah.
We're worried about crop safety. So going out and getting rid of a horrible weed, right? That's a problematic weed, while being able to selectively spray it and not have to put that chemical over the whole crop supposedly is going to save us yield. There's going to be a yield benefit to that. And we're starting to see that, a few bushels pop up where we didn't apply that chemical. So I think that as, again, the See and Spray technology improves in late crop, full canopy can be a little challenging for See and Spray. Boom height is an issue. And also there's a lot of green out there that camera's got to figure out which is the weed.
Process through,
Right. So, but that's going to improve over time. It's already improved immensely. So yeah, I like to hear that. I mean, I love that. I love that Ultimate machine. We can talk about pre-plant where we're going to throw some residual out full rate, plus then See and Spray the weeds that are up. There's some unique uses for that, but I love that in-crop fungicide application and spot spraying noxious weeds. The reality is we want to get water hemp out of here, right? We don't want to run it through the combine.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So that's good. That's a good review. Now, question is, did it kill the weeds?
Yeah, it did. I mean, there's a few escapes, but in my mind, it's like, well, those few might not even have been above the canopy at that point. I mean, Josh knows way better than I do this. If a weed is going to come back, this has been the year it's going to come back. It's like nothing pre-emerge seemed to work. And we've battled them more this year than we probably ever have. Yeah,
and there's always a difference between an escape and a second flush, which I'm with you. There's escapes or second flushes in fields that were broadcast this year. I mean, they're all over the place. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, and a lot of people couldn't get, not that they were off label, but the timing was not ideal for their pre and some post passes even, just because of the timing and the weather and how everything worked out. This was just not an ideal year for chemicals to be at their full maximum potential, but also just us on the backside. I think that we know that we did not some things wrong, but not that, anybody was doing anything off label, but it was just like not ideal timing, not ideal scenarios.
Well, we didn't have great activation rains in the spring. And then, we're talking about weeds that'll keep coming all year long. Let's be honest.
Well, activation. And then you look at what was the timing, everything went in at the exact same time. So then you talk about the ability to hit, are we hitting it a little bit later than what we should have, or a little bit too early because we know that that field down the road, that's our next stop, that one's going to have way more weed problems than what we've seen. So we're going to hit this one a little bit earlier than we should. There's a lot of that happen, trade-offs.
And the reality is we've had some heat and it's been an interesting growing season temperature-wise and weather-wise, and maybe we didn't canopy as quick as we should have in places. But, no matter what you do, weeds will grow. Right?
Yeah. Well, that and early when we was trying to spray the weeds at the right time, we was going through that super cold or the cold spell.
Yeah, super cold.
It's like, I need to spray. The weeds are where they're at.
It's hard to kill weeds when there's no sun, and it's hard to kill weeds.
Super windy.
Yeah, or it's windy, or
yeah. It was one of those challenging weed control years. I think all things considered, pretty fortunate.
Yeah.
So, no, good. Glad we got a good report on that. For sure.
Yeah.
So again, there's a lot of good things going on, a lot of things that are going to continue to get better. And that See and Spray is one thing. If you look at where we're at now versus where we were 3 years ago on it, it's made a lot of jumps, and we're getting ready to make some more too. So got to find a use for it, and there's some value there for sure. So parting thoughts. This wasn't too bad, was it?
No, it wasn't bad at all.
Are your nerves gone now?
Yeah, they're gone. I've
Okay.
settled down just a little bit.
You gonna let your wife listen to this one or not?
Yeah, well, we'll see. I'll have to listen to it first if it does air.
No, I appreciate it. Good customer, good stuff. Fun to work with. Appreciate the investment in the technology, but also just the things you guys are doing, and quite honestly, innovative things. You probably don't think so, but I do. And like I said, I love the strip till. I love the trajectory of what you're doing and how it matches up with what John Deere is trying to do technology wise, and kind of growing together in that respect. And I know we've got some things we can improve on, but we're all doing it together. So good stuff.
And the adaptability, you can't not mention that.
Right.
Using solutions that are typically made for a traditional Deere system and adapting them to your current practices and current equipment lineup. Just innovation at its finest. So
and we're making it work. In this industry, everything's in the technology industry, there's always improvements, right?
Yeah.
Software driven industry. And we always say sometimes when you buy technology, you take the goods and there's maybe a couple of not so goods that come with it, but the goods have to outweigh those, right? We're definitely going to make strides, and I'm excited to see what's next on your farm, especially, because you guys are doing some awesome stuff. I like it.
Yeah, it'll be fun it's fun to move forward and see where it goes.
Good stuff. Thanks for being on, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, enjoyed it.
well, until next time.
Talk to you next time.